This is a good part. Oh, Catwoman showed up. This is much perfect. So, I know there was like one book someone told me I should check out. Sorry, had to burp. Let's see. What? Oh yeah, right here. Frank Cho's Apes and Babes. Somehow I got an email from Amazon. If you like Confessions of a Cave Crusader, you will love Apes and Babes by Frank Cho. I don't know if I want to buy that book, so it's like... The funny thing about it is... one thing that just aggravates me with comics today is like one thing that, you know, I wish they would do, like for DC Black Labels, like push the envelope. But you kind of realize with Batman Damned, like they pushed the envelope, then they had to like stop and apologize for pushing the envelope for stories. Like, looking at this book, it's like I could see part of it working as a comic for DC, but part of it is just like I don't see DC ever publishing anything like that. I don't mind the rated R stories in comics. I wish they would do it with the Black Labels, just like push the fucking envelope that you can never do in a regular book. And I feel like with DC, with them going like, you know, we're doing the Black Label. I like my Batman cup. I haven't used my shot glass, so... One thing I wish they would do with the Black Label is just push the envelope. Just release the rated R Batman stories, or Superman stories, you know, Flash stories that you could never do in a comic. Just push the envelope. And I know a lot of people get upset. It's like, well, you know, kids can buy, you know, kids... What if a kid buys this book? It's like, the point of it is... Like, this book, Confessions of a Cape Crusader, has a giant M rating for M for mature story. Mature audience. You could do that with a book. Like, if I had a Batman book out with DC, this is hypothetical. I want to write it. I wrote like several Batman story ideas, and I would love to write a Batman story, but I would be like, you know what? Put an M rating, because I don't give a fuck. I want this book out there. Because it's a, you know, I want to see rated R Batman story. I mean, not the Snyder one, which I didn't mind. It wasn't bad, but when you see it in theaters, it's just like, boy. I mean, I was happy to see the Dark Knight Returns type Batman, but when I look back on it, it's just kind of like, this is a boring film. Like, I wish they would have done something more, but this is this is just a boring film. I know people are pushing for the release the Snyder cut, but it's just like I'm kind of done. Let's see what else they could do with Batman. Speaking of Batman, they got a new Batman writer taking over the comics in 2020. But the thing about it is, I think honestly they're going to write out the Tom King Batman story in 2019. I think they're just going to write it out and just see where it goes. I don't know what to think of the new writer they got for Batman. I'm happy it isn't Bendis. I was just like, thank God it's not Bendis. Christian Bale, however, spoke about Pattinson's Batman, saying Robert Pattinson should just ignore the naysayers. Holy shit, they're doing a Hogan's Heroes sequel series? Oh, hold on, everybody. I have to read this. Holy shit, I can't believe it. This may be a surprising story this week. A sequel to the Hogan's Heroes series is in the works. Yes, the series that ran from 1965 to 1971 till the cancellation and death of Bob Kane. According to reports, the 89-year-old co-creator Albert S. Ruddy is in the works of a concept with Danny McBride and his producing partners David Gordon Green and Jody Hill for a new series that will continue with the original characters coming together for a global treasure hunt. I wonder who the fuck's gonna play Hogan. I hope it's... I hope they get, man, what's that dude's name? The dude who was in, shit, what the fuck's that dude's name? I'm thinking of the one dude, like my mind just went blank. He played Bob Crane in a biopic, Autofocus. Greg Kinnear. I hope they get Greg Kinnear to play Hogan. Like, holy shit, I can't believe that. For those who never seen Hogan's Heroes, it's about an American, a Frenchman, a British, a black guy, African American, and another white guy. They say they're captured in a Nazi prison camp, and they have Klink, who is like in charge of it. Klink is completely incompetent to run it because he believes everything he does is like he's running the best prison camp. And I know Nazi things is not funny, but it is a pretty fucking funny story. But throughout this whole story, Hogan and his gang are spies. They have an underground tunnel and all that, and they, do missions to stop the Nazis from winning the war and doing stupid shit. And yeah, and they have they have one guy who sort of helps them, and Schultz, who knows what they're doing, but is sort of like talked out of like not telling Klink. And Schultz is really a smart guy. He does not want to be involved in anything. He basically says, I know nothing, and leaves. And it's a funny story, and I have to do an episode about Bob Crane because he had the most bizarre life in history, and he died in a hotel. So should I just tell the story of it? All right, I'll just tell the story of it because I once I talk about something, I have to like talk about it, get it out of my system. Okay, Bob Crane, who starred in Hogan's Heroes as Colonel Hogan, he had let's say a very bizarre lifestyle. And throughout his life, and once he became famous and he had money and fame and everybody knew who he was, he had a lot of affairs with women. He basically was a sex addict. He had sex with multiple women, recorded them, took erotic photos of them, and he just lived that lifestyle. He just lived that entire lifestyle. And he became friends with John Carpenter. Not the Halloween John Carpenter. A John Carpenter who actually recorded his sex tapes, Bob Crane's sex tapes, with multiple women. And one day Crane and Carpenter got into a fight. And a lot of people thought, Carpenter murdered Crane. After the trial and, several months, DNA tests and all that, Carpenter was acquitted of charges of murder. And however, in November 2016, in Phoenix, they did a blood sample test from 1978 blood sample of Carpenter's rental car for retesting. However, more advanced technologies than it was used in the 90s. However, they found 2 sequences of identities, one to an unknown male, and the other too damaged to find conclusions of it. The remaining DNA from the car for further testing is impossible. So, this was kind of like a murder that was it's unsolved to this day. And when Bob Crane died, the show ended like 7 years before Crane's death, and the show was canceled because I don't know why it was canceled, to be quite honest with you. It just ended, and however they went through legal issues and stuff like that. The most bizarre thing about what happened with Crane and all that was his son. I think it was his son or his kids, one of the two. They released photographs and videos that Crane took online on Bob Crane's website. It was so fucking bizarre. I never seen it, but I heard that people talked about it once the film Autofocus came out, and it was just so bizarre. Scotty Crane said his father wasn't a regular churchgoer and said he only went to church 3 times, and he said there was no evidence of Crane engaging in S&M stuff. And it was just really bizarre things. For example, Scotty Crane and his mother wrote a biopic of his father. There was 2 titles to it. One was called F-Stop, and one was Take Off Your Clothes and Smile. It was just the whole thing of Bob Crane was bizarre. And I look forward to them doing the show. If they don't do it, then I wouldn't mind seeing it as a comic book or something like that. They won't have the same cast like they did before because most of them are dead, unfortunately. So, anyway, I look forward to it. Anyway, I was supposed to talk about Batman Rider. Somehow I got distracted with Bob Crane and Hogan's Heroes. So anyway, I'm sorry about that. I couldn't help but talk about it.